On February 12, 2025, the world watched as President Donald Trump and President Vladimir Putin spoke on the phone for 90 minutes. The topic? The ongoing war in Ukraine. This wasn't their first conversation, but it was perhaps the most significant. Trump, it seemed, was ready to deal. He signaled a willingness to concede on key issues, a move that shocked many in Kyiv and across Europe. The question on everyone's mind, was this the beginning of the end of the war, or was it something else entirely? The call came as a surprise to many world leaders who had not been briefed on its contents beforehand. The lack of transparency immediately raised concerns about what exactly Trump and Putin had agreed upon. Some feared that Ukraine's interests were being sacrificed for a quick and easy solution. Others held a glimmer of hope, wondering if this could be the breakthrough needed to bring peace to the war-torn region. The stakes were undeniably high. The conflict in Ukraine had raged for years, claiming countless lives and displacing millions. The humanitarian cost was staggering, and the geopolitical ramifications were felt worldwide. Trump's willingness to negotiate with Putin directly, bypassing traditional diplomatic channels, added another layer of complexity to an already volatile situation. As news of the call spread, speculation ran rampant. What did Trump promise Putin? What was Putin's response? And most importantly, what did this mean for the future of Ukraine? The answers to these questions would have far-reaching consequences, shaping the geopolitical landscape for years to come. The world waited with bated breath for any indication of what the future held. The Trump-Putin call wasn't an isolated event. It signaled a larger shift in American foreign policy, one that prioritized domestic concerns over international commitments. The new direction was evident in the words of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who declared that the United States would no longer prioritize the security of Europe and Ukraine. This marked a stark departure from the policies of previous administrations, which had consistently reaffirmed the importance of transatlantic alliances. Hegseth argued that the United States needed to focus on its own security challenges, particularly those posed by illegal immigration and the rise of China. He called for increased defense spending from NATO allies, arguing that they needed to shoulder more responsibility for their own defense. This America-first approach resonated with some, who felt that the United States had been carrying too much of the burden for global security for too long. However, the shift in policy sparked immediate backlash from European leaders and foreign policy experts. Critics argued that it undermined decades of American leadership and risked emboldening adversaries like Russia and China. They warned that withdrawing from the world stage would only make the United States less safe, not more. The debate over America's role in the world was far from new, but the Trump administration's actions brought it to the forefront once again. The implications of this shift in priorities were far-reaching, affecting everything from trade agreements to military alliances. The world watched closely, uncertain of what the future held for the United States and its place in the global order. The potential for Ukraine to join NATO, once seen as a path to stability and security, was now in jeopardy. Hegseth's declaration that Ukrainian membership was unrealistic sent shockwaves through the alliance. This contradicted previous statements from NATO officials who had repeatedly affirmed Ukraine's right to determine its own security arrangements. The about-face raised serious questions about the future of NATO and its commitment to collective defense. Reactions from NATO allies were a mix of concern and condemnation. Some, like former U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton, accused Trump of effectively surrendering to Putin. Others, like NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, tried to strike a more measured tone, emphasizing the need for a durable peace agreement. However, even Rutte acknowledged the pressure the U.S. was putting on European nations to increase their support for Kyiv. The uncertainty surrounding Ukraine's future membership in NATO exposed deep divisions within the alliance. Some members, particularly those in Eastern Europe who felt most threatened by Russia, argued for a firm stance against any concessions to Moscow. Others, wary of escalating the conflict, favored a more cautious approach. The debate over how to handle Russia's aggression in Ukraine threatened to unravel the very fabric of the transatlantic alliance. The stakes were high for NATO. Its credibility as a guarantor of security was on the line. Failure to present a united front against Russian aggression would embolden Putin and could have ripple effects far beyond Ukraine, potentially encouraging other authoritarian regimes to test the resolve of the West. The future of European security hung in the balance. Caught in the crosshairs of this geopolitical chess game was Ukraine itself. Ukrainian officials expressed deep concern about being sidelined in the negotiations between the US and Russia. They feared that their country's fate was being decided without their input, a fear exacerbated by the lack of transparency surrounding the Trump-Putin call. "Nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine," declared Ukrainian lawmaker Kira Rudik, echoing the sentiment felt by many in her country. Rudik's words highlighted the growing sense of betrayal felt by many Ukrainians. They had been on the front lines of a war against Russian aggression, a war that the West had pledged to help them fight. Now, it seemed, their sacrifices were being overlooked in the pursuit of a quick and easy resolution. The potential for a peace deal that did not address their core security concerns was a bitter pill to swallow. Despite Hegseth's insistence that the US had not betrayed Ukraine, pointing to the billions of dollars in aid provided, many Ukrainians remained unconvinced. They argued that financial assistance was no substitute for a clear commitment to their security and their future. The specter of a negotiated settlement that left them vulnerable to further Russian aggression loomed large. As the world grappled with the implications of the shifting geopolitical landscape, one thing was clear: the future of Ukraine remained precariously uncertain. The outcome of the ongoing negotiations would have profound consequences for the country and its people, shaping their destiny for generations to come.